Hi, I'm Jason Carter, and I am sick and tired of ESPN cramming the NBA down my throat this close to NFL season.
And I'm Steve McCollum, and I'm tired of tennis penalizing female players for taking their shirts off.
Main Event Podcast, it's next.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 1, 0.
Welcome to the Main Event Podcast, episode number 25. Jason Carter along with Steve McCollum.
Hello, hello.
And don't forget to follow us on the Twitter pages at The Main Event Pod. And you can follow me at JasonCarter03. Hit me up on Snapchat, Instagram as well. You can find Steven on Twitter at
SMAC500.
And I believe that's your Instagram and Snapchat as well.
Everything's the same, yeah.
We have everything the same. We like to keep it kosher around here. And also on Facebook, if you would so be obliged to hit us up and like us there at The Main Event Podcast by putting in the old search bar.
Or GestaltProduction.com.
Yes, or GestaltProduction.com. You also hit us up at themaineventpodcast.com. Listen to the podcast without the commercials. Don't need the Podbean app. Just put it in your phone, your computer, wherever you listen to us at. We appreciate you for listening to us. We're on iTunes, Spotify. We are, I believe, like the second most downloaded show on iTunes right now. That's what I heard.
Oh, did you hear that?
Yeah, the rankings came out. We are the second most downloaded, so we need to get first most downloaded, and we need your help, all right? So
we're going to take down that Joe Rogan.
Yeah, Joe Rogan, you're going down. Speaking of podcasts, saw your boy, Greeny, Mike Greenberg, has a podcast coming out.
I think, okay, so that's the new thing, right? So all these people that have shows are doing podcasts now. But if you listen to them, all the podcast is like their shows, like behind the scenes or whatever.
Well, Greenberg's actually going to be more of like... it's not going to be like he's going to be doing like interviews, but it's not going to be like, what's that show he's on right now? Get Up? Yeah, I was going to say Rise Up. Well, Clay Travis has his podcast, Outkick, was just a show. Yeah. Without commercials. Yeah. And then... well,
that's what a lot of them are doing. So you can listen to part of the Interruption podcast, but it's just a show.
Right.
You know, and all that. But... Greeny needs to do a podcast gig because he's going to be unemployed here soon. The way they're taking his show down from low ratings. So.
Yeah, ESPN doing a whole lot of changes, which is awesome. One change though that they haven't done yet. Steve, it's August 29th right now. We're recording this. We're amped up. We're ready for what? Football, baby. Like football. College football's back tomorrow night, actually.
Yeah, well, last weekend, if you want to count the lower Jackson A&T versus whoever, but yes.
Hey, Hawaii played Colorado State. Good game.
Yes.
Good game, you know?
Yes.
For all those gamblers out there. And that's all I saw on my Twitter feed was just people gambling. Oh, man, I hope need Hawaii to like really break out here in the second half so we can, get the over here. This isn't how Hawaii's played the last 5 years. I'm like,
I know.
But, no, like, I keep seeing, like, just NBA talk. I mean, we were talking about yesterday. We were listening to like Fox Sports. Colin Cowherd was making some weird NBA to NFL analogy.
Well, he was talking about the NFL, and then he goes into this NBA tirade, and then goes right back to the NFL again and finishes his thought on the NBA and NFL thing. I don't get why they're pushing.
But ESPN Daily is doing this whole NBA, the overs and unders are out. We got to talk about NBA. We got to talk about NBA. Like I get it. Like they're trying to make the NBA feel as important as the NFL, and like, of course, for some reason, people inside the NBA, I think because like their big partnership with ESPN, they feel like it's right there with the NFL. But if you look at the ratings, it's not. Like, what turns you off more than anything is, like, when they start talking about the NBA. I mean, I get it. Like, the finals, I mean, you're like, okay, this is, like, too much. And all they really talk about with the NBA is LeBron. Like, I can't wait for LeBron to retire so we can get off the whole LeBron James topic. Like, I love LeBron James, but I'm ready for him to retire because that's all they talk about, and they just word it in different ways. And it's, like, it gets really frustrating. I want to know about, like, what's going on in football land. It's football season.
Yeah, literally nothing is going to happen in NBA. Ginobili retired yesterday, by the way.
Manu!
Yeah, but literally nothing major is going to happen in NBA circles for the next 2 months until they start playing. But, well, even when they changed the get-up thing with Michelle Beadle leaving, you know, what do they announce? And then they talk about, because she's going to do the NBA Live from LA again, and I told you, I go, she's an NBA girl. She's going to go do some NBA. Like, I knew it was coming.
Especially when she came out and said she's not watching any more football.
So, but I mean, they get ratings books, like, down to the minute on what, so, like, they can tell if people turn off. That's why they don't talk a lot of hockey, is because they know when somebody brings up hockey, people just stop listening. So they know there's up to the minute and everything. But the bigger issue
Same with MLB. It's a more local thing.
But it has to do with rights, right? Like, ESPN is pretty much, I know TBS is there, but TNT. TNT. But ESPN is a majority rights holder for NBA. So it's their vested interest to pimp that up and do it, because they don't simply have the rights for, other than Monday Night Football, they don't have the rights for anything football. So, you know, it makes sense that they're going to hype that up, but I agree with you. It's like, I turn into SportsCenter to get what happened in, like, whatever preseason game, because God forbid I don't want to watch a preseason game, and I have to sit there and listen to NBA talk for 45 minutes about, are the Lakers going to make the playoffs next June?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Do you think the Lakers could take down the Warriors if the Lakers were in the East? What?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. If the East All-Stars went up against the Warriors, will the East All-Stars win? What?
And they're doing these, like, 10-minute segments on it, and then you have, like, Kellerman and Stephen A. They just yell at each other about it. I was like, what? Who cares? Like, well, are we really, like, doing this what-if game?
Would you rather have Kellerman and Stephen A. yell at each other about NBA or about Tiger Woods not telling the president he's a piece of shit and then being upset about it?
Yeah, true. Well, that's a whole other thing to get into. I mean, yeah, obviously.
Let's avoid the politics.
I mean, is that really? I'm not like, the super political guy. I really don't know what's going on. I mean, you know more than me, and I'm just like, oh, that sounds dumb, you know? Like, I mean, you have CNN on every now and then. I get in the car, I hear Rush Limbaugh. I was like, I don't know, like, whatever, turn it off. Like, even though he's probably, like, on my side about most things. But it's like, wow, like, I can't believe, like, Tiger Woods tried to get the old race bait this week from, the New York Times, asking him questions about his relationship with Mr. President, and Tiger Woods just kept referring to him as Donald, so you know, like, his relationship, it's a friendly one, all right? Like, for everybody who...
They weren't asking questions. They were downright trying to get Tiger to say that the president's a racist.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't bite, and he wouldn't bite, and he wouldn't bite, which is the smart thing to do, whether he thinks he is or he thinks he isn't. The smart thing to do is keep your trap shut and move on. Because we're about to find out, because LeBron James is starting all these extracurricular stuff.
The shop.
And you're about to find out, I have a feeling, that it'll get decent ratings, but it's not going to get stellar ratings, because LeBron James is pissed off half of this country with his Donald Trump take and everything. And whether you agree with him or you don't agree with him, if you don't agree with him, you're probably not going to watch the show. I mean, we saw the preview, and it was just like bashing, white people or whatever.
And they have like Jon Stewart on there, which I find so weird. It's like a room full of like African Americans,
successful, sports guys.
Well, Snoop Dogg.
Well, that's true.
I mean, I guess he is a sports guy. I mean, WWE Hall of Famer. Yeah. Let's throw him that too. And then they have Jon Stewart, just like random white guy, to like, oh, this will boost up our. He's the token,
but he's Jewish, so he's allowed to be in there.
He's the token.
He's also been oppressed most of his life.
Yeah,
Jon Stewart, because he's Jewish. So, yeah, no, but it's, I don't disagree, but it's definitely the best thing about the whole ESPN thing, to put a bow on it, what you're saying, is the new president of ESPN, not the cokehead that got fired, the new one, comes out and says, we're going to get rid of politics and sports, and they buy out Jamel Hill for $6 million, and they do it, and the very next day, First Take goes on these political rants about how Tiger Woods needs to come out and say the president's a racist bastard because he's black.
Well, what I found funny about that First Take, so I went back and watched it, and Max Kellerman's like, I do not agree with Tiger Woods' sentiment. He needs to say this, this, and this. And Stephen A's like, no, you should respect the office. Like, you got the black guy. He's like, first he calls Tiger Woods Asian, and then he
is. I mean, Tiger Woods he's 1/8 African American, so he doesn't even consider himself black. But from from what I've been told. I didn't read up on it, but I heard a lot of stuff on that. So.
And then people are like hating on Tiger Woods on Twitter, saying he needs to check his race and trying to pull his race card. Like, oh my God, people, like, just get off of it. The guy's friends with him, all right? Maybe Donald Trump isn't a big racist like the liberal media wants you to falsely believe, which is why he's gonna be president again. That's my rant on that. He's gonna win 2020 because people are tired of being called racist. With
Jason, hot take, Jason, right here.
No
hot
factual
takes.
proof of being called a racist. He's gonna win because we're all tired of you pussies.
That's the problem, is they're pushing a lot of people like me that I would rather vote Republican than Democrat any day of the week, but I would also support a guy that's being attacked as much as he is and everything with no proof. Like, show me the proof. Like, they can't even do that. It's just
they're like, oh,
constant.
He didn't want this guy to. I remember because I had that Twitter argument with somebody. Who's like, oh, he didn't want black people renting from his home. It's like, probably back then made kind of sense. It was
what year was that? 1960s?
It was like back in the 80s. Like, all right, whatever.
But is that true? Like, where's the proof on that? Like, as a business person that owns houses, I'm restrictive on who moves into them and everything.
Yeah.
It's not based off of anything I know.
It's based
other
off of
than
income.
Credit, income,
yeah.
can they afford it? So, I mean, technically, I'm sure I can get accused of keeping some.
And then the best is
out.
when people say, well, he called black people sons of bitches. Like, what?
Football players who, if you're watching Hard Knocks right now, to segue, you hear a lot worse words than sons of bitches.
You do hear a lot worse words than sons of bitches. But anyways, U.S. Open's going on. I know you're a big tennis guy. We talked about some pussy balls. Here we are playing on the concrete court in New York. As we'll get into the Hard Knocks a little bit later on.
The U.S. Open is the one that does do the different balls. Remember, we learned that. That's where we learned that fact.
Yes.
Because it was coming up. So the men do play with fuzzier balls than women do.
To
in the U.S. Open.
Slower the speed down on the the serves.
So, so the French Open came out, this week, and said that Serena Williams, who, if you don't know, just had a baby a few months ago, went through a really bad pregnancy, all that good stuff.
Blood clots. She gets a lot of blood clots.
She had to wear a cat suit, for the French Open and everything. And now they've come out and they've said it doesn't meet the traditional styling, so she can't wear it anymore. And Wimbledon has an all-white policy, so they all have standards and everything. But if you watch the U.S. Open, ladies, because I'm not into this part, it's so hot there right now, like the heat is outrageous that they have heat rules in effect where players can literally call timeout and take like a 10-minute break to go inside, get water, ice bath, change their clothes. Like, it's that hot there. So they have this rule. So the men are literally, like, during a break, taking their shirt off, putting a new shirt on, and if you like that, ladies, these tennis guys are in shape. Let's just put it that way.
Federer looked good last night.
Yeah, so, if you're into that, you're probably watching tennis right now. However, today, apparently tennis is also sexist, which, I gotta be honest with you, I'm not surprised that they would be sexist, to be honest with you. But, excuse me if I say the name wrong, Elise Cornet, who's a French player, was penalized for briefly taking off her shirt today. She had a sports bra underneath, people, but the penalty was just a warning. It comes down to just being a warning. But if guys are allowed to take their shirts off on the sideline and girls can, so what happened was she had the 10-minute break. She went inside. She changed her shirt because the women have to go inside to change their shirts. She came out and her shirt was on backwards, so she had the back on the front, and she realized it. So she goes to the back of the court, like in a corner. She has the sports bra on, and she takes it up above her neck, turns it around, and puts it back on. Like 2 seconds. And she got admonished by the referee for being unsavory, I guess would be the word. She went on to lose and whatever, but now, of course, everybody's saying that, tennis is sexist and the U.S. Open's sexist because the guys are pretty much just stripping on the court.
I mean, she pretty much did what all of her girlfriends have done inside the car, where it's like, you're going somewhere, and it's like, I don't wear this shirt yet. And
with less on, too, by the way. Yeah. She had more on than what most people did.
And then they do the takeoff, like, hang on, don't pull up next to that truck. I don't want them to see down in here.
I mean, I'm looking at a picture right here of, like, where they put Novak Djokovic picture of him. I mean, he looks naked with socks and shoes on. next to this girl putting her shirt around. Like, it's acceptable for the men to do that, but the chicks can't, you know? So, excuse me, the girls can't.
Yeah, I can't say chicks.
Yeah, no, sorry. So, like, so that's the new thing, outrage today on the Open is, I don't know what's going on with tennis lately, I guess is my point in this.
Yeah, you're learning a whole bunch about balls a few months ago. Now you're learning more about the shirt dress code rules.
Well, I knew there was dress codes. Everybody knows there's dress codes if you look at that. But like, but I mean, these players are like dropping like flies. Like 5 people like didn't even go out and play their first match because it was too hot for them. They're from climates and stuff where it doesn't get hot. You know, things like that. So the U.S. Open did come back out and say she did not violate the code when she changed her shirt. But of course, like I said, you know, the umpire, you know, admonished her in public about it. So
like, what are you doing? How dare you? Victim shaming.
You know, they have those iPads now up there so they can deduct points or whatever. I mean, she went on a loss, so she's out of the tournament now. So we have to wait for the next tournament for her to pull. Who's that soccer player that did it?
Mia Hamm.
Mia Hamm, yeah, Mia Hamm.
Classic.
So, but yeah, so, you know, I mean, you know, as a country, we should never be upset when women want to take off their shirts in public.
Free the tatas.
However, you know, especially in tennis, come on.
Set those puppies free. Nobody's watching tennis anyways. This probably boosted the ratings.
I don't know what the ratings are on that stuff, but I bet you the majors get pretty dang good. Well, not on a Wednesday morning.
Depending on what we are, you know, yeah, you're not
on a Wednesday morning. They're not. Like, people don't even show up to the event. Like, you saw the crowd. You're like, there's not a lot of people there. And I'm like, it's Tuesday morning. Who was playing yesterday?
I don't know.
Federer was playing.
Federer was playing like 5. And yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of people there.
Yeah, and you were like, well, a lot of people there.
5 our time, so there was like, what, 8 their time?
And I was like, dude, it's Tuesday. Like, you expect people to show up for him to play some unranked, you know, guy in the tournament that he's going to dominate. So, yeah, I know. Nobody watches tennis but Steve.
You don't even watch tennis. Don't lie.
It's on in the background. Pay attention to it. I know it's funny because like today I was like, oh, the defending champion's playing. You're like, who? And I'm like, I don't know. Say the 2 people playing, and I'll tell you which one she is.
I'll tell you which one won last week.
Because I couldn't remember her name all of a sudden.
All right. Well, not to get too far away from tennis talk, because we all know, I mean, football season is coming up. There was some big football news kind of coming out here lately. First off, new contracts coming out. Odell Beckham got paid by the Giants yesterday. Came in. Everybody thought it was going to be a holdout. He said, no, I'm just going to put in my work, do my thing. He got his contract. Khalil Mack, take notes. That's how you do it in professional sports. You don't not talk to your team and miss games and expect to get paid.
And hide.
Yeah, and hide. Also, Aaron Rodgers getting paid today, so that's pretty big news coming out of Green Bay. Kind of wish, I mean, I'm not like a Green Bay fan by no means, so I kind of like how they just went ahead and gave him all the money. The highest paid quarterback contract in NFL history until next year when somebody else gets paid.
Yeah, I was going to say, who's coming up next?
Yeah, but you and me both kind of said this when we saw the news, like, you kind of wish they would give him more help. Me not being Packers fans, I love it because, I mean, that just means they're probably not going to make the playoffs this year, hopefully.
Yeah, Mike, I mean, you know me and my football. I root for the Cardinals because they're the home team. I grew up liking the Giants. I root for Baltimore. I've always liked Baltimore since they moved to Baltimore. Ray Lewis, my hero. Yeah, like, you hate to see a team just keep, and that's been the problem with Green Bay for years now. It's just no receiver help, no anything. The defense is good, but all that stuff, and it's just, God, like, get the guy some help, like, invest some money in some receivers, even some rookie ones for Lord's sakes, But the Packers are that team that don't build through free agency, they build through the draft, and if a guy doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But when you have a guy as good as Aaron Rodgers, sorry Tom Brady fans, but Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the league. He does the most with less. And the proof is when he was out last year, that Packers looked like they were one of the worst teams in football. And when he was in there, they looked like one of the better teams in football. But like we were talking about earlier, I mean, this isn't like the year where the Packers, we can win this division. I mean, they got the Vikings in that division, and the Vikings are stacked. And if anything, the Vikings got better at quarterback. I'm not a Kirk Cousins fan, but, the Kirk Cousins is definitely a step up from what they had last year, and that guy took them to the conference finals.
And Case Keenum now with Denver, and
sucking in Denver.
But he is developing quite the repertoire with Cortland Sutton, which I drafted both my fantasy drafts this past week because I'm expecting big things to come out of that.
The problem with Denver is the head coach at this point, right? Because he almost got fired after his first year last year, and then there's no development. I mean, Brock Osweiler takes his crap from people about how he's stealing money or whatever, but he's making $700,000 in Denver. But every quarterback is taking a step back with this head coach. What's his name? Vance Joseph or something?
Yeah, Vance Joseph. He talks so weird too. I'm not really a big fan of how Vance Joseph talks. I had to cut audio last year.
Well, he's going to be unemployed this year, so.
And really, just wasn't a fan of how Vance Joseph's talk. But anyways, talk about player development. One guy who would like to see, less player development maybe. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones came out yesterday.
Hold on, my new favorite owner.
Came out yesterday in an appearance on the Sean and RJ show, 105.3 The Fan. One of my favorite stations I listen to keep up with all my Cowboys and Texas Rangers talk. Said, it's debatable whether or not an 18-game regular season would really create a safer game, but he believes that it would, and he actually lobbied for this during the previous owner meetings, and he said, my solution's real simple. Cut back on preseason games. Have one at each team's home, play a couple of them, then add 2 games to regular season, which I've been a proponent of for several years. That's a better equity or a better way of players using what they bring to the table, their talents, their skills, their professional time in pro sports. That'll give them a bigger payday. That's fair. The other thing it does is it certainly gives our fans what we all think they deserve, and that is a more competitive game. So Jerry Jones wants an 18-game season. Do you see it happening anytime soon?
No. But because of the players on the safety side are going to come up with all these excuses. However, there is a way around it. The NFLPA, more players get paid in the preseason. So, these guys that are going to get cut are making, it used to be $800 a week. I think it's more than that now. I think it's $1,200 or something. So players that are going to get cut are making $1,200 per week for being there. That's obviously a cut the NFLPA gets. So obviously you're going to expand the rosters, right? So you're going to go from 53-man to whatever, 60, 72 or whatever. It's going to keep the revenue generating for the owners because they make a lot of money because you pay full price for preseason tickets and they're garbage games. They're just garbage. But you're going to have to give some concessions to the NFLPA, which means it's going to have to be collectively bargained, which I don't think the collective bargaining agreement comes up again for another 2 or 3 years.
Right.
So they'd have to scrap what they got now. But you're going to have to give them some things like, the NFLPA wants marijuana not to be tested. There was a couple other things I was reading that the NFLPA really wants. So you're going to have to give into if you want to go that. But I think it's a no-brainer for the fans. I know people like to say the fans have no vested interest. We're the ones that are plopping down the money to go. We're the ones watching on TV. We are the ones, the ratings are going to go up if you have 2 more games. And then my other point on this is this preseason, usually the third game was the best game because all the starters played through the third quarter. So that would be the game you wanted to watch. This year, Cowboys, for example, didn't play Dak Prescott, Zeke Elliott, or anybody in this third preseason game. And it's, they're all playing them in the second one now. So if we're going to that point, but then my point on player safety is, I actually heard this today, but I'm going to take credit for it, is players are in camp for how long? A month and a half? Literally beating up on each other. Like, if you're watching Hard Knocks, these guys are hitting each other. Even when they're in shells, they're banging heads constantly, all that. And then they go into a preseason game, and then they're doing it again. Make it for real. If you want player safety, make it for real. Cut down the amount of practices in the preseason. Get them out there. And most teams count the first 4 games of the season as you don't know what team you have until the 4th game because they're counting it as preseason basically, even though they count. So add a couple more games on there, stretch it out the 4 before that, and go with that. Needs to be done. Makes perfect business sense. I don't see it happening though.
And a lot of these injuries, I know also, the Cowboys did that third preseason game, kind of sit their starters. The Bears did the same thing, which I know I follow a lot of people up in Chicago. They're like, oh my God, what are the Bears doing? It's like, well, it makes sense, you don't want these guys out there getting hurt. During preseason, these guys aren't amped up. They're going, not a full 100%, which is where you see a lot of these injuries come into play. Obviously, there's some injuries that you just can't avoid. If you pull like an ACL, MCL. I mean, that was probably going to happen at some point, I think.
That doesn't happen because of bad speed. That just happens because you plant wrong or somebody hit you wrong.
Or you had something kind of come off the bone, like it was going to fall off eventually, I feel like, like hamstring injury, stuff like that.
Well, Jerry Jones did cite a study that I think NFL owners did or somebody independent did that more players get hurt in preseason than they do in regular season.
Yeah, he actually had a more quote. He says, I think candidly it'll probably physically better for the players than it is to have the longer preseason than the longer practicing. He says, our studies have showed that we actually have a ramped up injury situation with players during preseason as opposed to injury factor in the regular season, which I think would make more sense because, these guys aren't going full galore 100% during the preseason. These guys, it's a lot different when you're a veteran trying to, or a veteran during preseason as opposed to a veteran like once the lights come on. I mean, once game one starts, you're ready, you're trying to make the playoffs. I mean, that game matters to them. I mean, game one matters for playoffs. I mean, there's only 16 games in the season, so I mean, every game counts. And I think having more, it's the different, what am I trying to say? I'm mumbling over my fucking words here.
Yeah, you are.
You know what I mean? It's a lot different of a amp up level.
They played 12 games, then they went to 14. Now they're at 16. So I mean, this is just a constant evolution of it. But like I said, you're gonna get more players on the roster, which helps everybody. To be honest, it helps with development. You're gonna be able to keep young guys that they have to cut, and then those guys they bring back every year for like 2 or 3 years because they're like maybe this year they can make it. It basically can do like a development league for a practice squad type thing. It's definitely a no-brainer. I think it's a no-brainer, but like I said, it's going to help the fans also. You want to bring fans back, give them more meaningful football, because guys like me literally don't care about football this time of year. Like, I want to know the updates, who got injured, stuff like that, but I really don't care how bad, who was it the other night that looked horrible for the Eagles? Foles? I really don't care that Nick Foles looked like garbage against Cleveland Browns on a preseason football game. Like, I have zero interest. But people are literally falling off their chairs saying how bad Nick Foles is because of that one game, So, but my favorite owner for this week, Jerry Jones. You never thought I'd say that.
Well, he was also asked about, winning the Super Bowl as well.
Yeah.
And he said...
back to me hating Jerry Jones again.
And he said that he would write an embarrassing check. And he said it would be shocking if you knew the size of the check I would write if it could guarantee me a Super Bowl. It would be obscene. There is nothing I would do financially not to get a Super Bowl. So, I mean...
Well, he's tried that. He's tried that in the past. It failed. So have the Redskins. Who else has done that, it tends to be the more you spend, on good players and stuff, the less Super Bowls you have.
It is amazing. It is amazing in today's NFL. But anyways, other than that, I mean, you kind of look, let's look at, what we just watched, which was Hard Knocks. Got to get our Hard Knocks review in there.
One more week.
This is episode number 4 as they focused on...
Is it 4?
Yeah.
3? 4?
Was it 4? 4 or 5? They focused on the third preseason game, which was obviously a last Thursday night tilt on Fox,
the Eagles?
national TV. My biggest takeaway from Hard Knocks this past week was... Does Joe Buck just fly in 5 minutes before the game and then get in the booth? Because he was not at the production meeting when Troy Aikman's asking all these questions. He's with Pam Oliver and Aaron Andrews. There is no Joe Buck in sight on the field. It's Troy Aikman, Pam Oliver, Aaron Andrews before the game. No Joe Buck in sight.
Does Joe Buck still have a production deal with HBO? Because remember he had the Joe Buck show that bombed miserably and stuff. Maybe that's a contractual reason why he couldn't be on it.
I don't know. I just feel like you would see him at some point. Well, no, because you heard him. They did Joe Buck, little experts. He just was not there at the production meeting. So whenever you hear the Fox guys say, "Oh, well, yesterday in the production meeting," just know Joe Buck wasn't fucking there.
Hold up. That's the big thing you got out of this? Out of the episode?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's the whole broadcaster school thing coming back on me. Seeing how broadcasters work. That's what I took away from it.
Okay. That's interesting.
And I also took away that I feel like the Browns are trying to give Jarvis Landry this leadership role that he doesn't want. Like, I know Landry in the first episode kind of came out.
That's what I was going to touch on.
And said, hey, you know what, guys, this is what we got to do. This is what we got to do. I feel like after that, it's been like, Jarvis, you need to get on these guys. You need to get on these guys. And we saw during the game where Todd Haley walked up to Jarvis after, I don't know who it was, probably Higgins or something like that, kind of half-assed her out. And he went right up to him and said, hey, man, you got to get on these guys. And Jarvis is just there like, what the fuck? Like, am I like the new leader now?
But you brushed over the fact that he was dogging it all game in practice that week, which goes to my point here, that goes to the point of that we were just talking about. If you're watching Hard Knocks this year, you see how worn out and tired these players are in this week of practice. Like, everybody's complaining about it. The coaches are yelling at them about it. Like, we know you're hurting, but get out there. Show us, dig in there. Like, you can see the fatigue and everything on these guys. But Landry was half-assing it on his routes during the game, and they were all over him. So I don't know if he doesn't want it. He might just not know how to do it. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, he came from Miami. Who was he there? He was there with, Stills in Miami. There's Devontae Parker in Miami. Like, I don't know, like, exactly who the ins and outs of what happened in Miami in, like, the wide receiver room. But Jarvis Landry, I don't think he was, like, really one of the guys that they looked up to. But now he's, like, that veteran kind of coming in here with all these young players. But this was also
the week where Josh Gordon, because he was a lot more vocal the first 2 weeks. I will give him that. But this was the week that Josh Gordon, even though he can't play, did come back. And Josh Gordon is going to be the leader of that place because they all love him to death and they're all rooting for him. They want him to overcome all of his demons. So part of me wonders, too, if he's kind of like, well, Josh Gordon's back now, so I need to take a back seat kind of a deal.
Right, because he's been here for a while.
Yeah. But everybody loves Josh Gordon. And, God, when he was talking to Pam Oliver, man, like, I mean, he sounded like a polished veteran receiver, oh, this is what I want to do, this is what we have to do it, and Jarvis Landry just doesn't talk like that at all.
The thing I loved about Josh Gordon talking to Pam Oliver was when he's a millennial guy, and he said, there ain't no sense of entitlement here. I know I got to work my ass. So I was like, hell yeah. Millennial doesn't like entitlement. I love that.
I feel like Landry is entitled, and I feel like he thinks he's the number one receiver on the team and possibly in the league, but he hasn't shown it at all. But I think like he thinks that's just, I came to save the Browns is kind of what I get from him, I'm here to save the Browns, so now we're going to save the Browns, And Todd Haley was exactly right, You go out there and you take a play off, which he did. They showed it blatantly, where he took 2 or 3 plays off, where the ball came to him, by the way. It wasn't like the ball wasn't being thrown to him. And Todd Haley flat out told him, if one of these young guys sees you doing that, he's going to start doing it. And they need to work harder than you, to get where you are. So you need to be a leader. And, yeah, it just didn't seem like he cared.
I'm just ready for some cuts to happen, man. Like, I guess, like, this next episode, they're going to, like, start showing some of the cuts.
Remember they changed the rules? It used to be they had, like, 3 layers of cuts.
Yeah.
And now it's, like, one big one at the end because of player safety and everything.
Because all these guys are going to be playing in the 4th game, trying to, vie for that spot.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing in the 4th game, you're on the bubble. So,
I'm just excited we get to see some Brogan this week, hopefully. Because, Drew Stanton's not playing the entire 4th game, so we get to see some Brogan.
Well, you'd have 2 guys in there. Man, I don't get why you're into this Brogan guy.
Like, I just love the dude, man. I don't know. Like,
where did he go to college?
Eastern Michigan.
Yeah.
Or Western Michigan. One of the Michigans.
Nobody cares.
I love it. I'm in love with the guy. And remember...
Why, though?
Aaron Andrews, came up and... First off, Aaron Andrews is hot. I don't care what Steve says.
Yeah, I disagree 100%.
Fucking smoke show, okay?
She's got... There's something... Like... I don't know if she had nose work done or whatever, but it looks worse than before. And then, did you see the outfit she had on when she walked away? Like,
looking good in that romper.
Oh my God, no.
Looking good. But Brogan even said something. He's like, "Oh man, Aaron Andrews came up to me. She knew my name." I just thought that was hilarious. I don't know. I like the guy.
It's probably fed into his her ears. She walked up or whatever. I mean, she's got to know that
she watches the show. They all watch the show. Even Aikman was talking about how his during the game last week was talking about how his wife wants Devin Kajus to make the team.
Yeah.
He was like, my wife really loves it. And that's all they talked about last week on the actual game was just pretty much about Hard Knocks. This, Hard Knocks that. And it really wasn't about the Eagles.
So, I love Hard Knocks because, like I said, it normally shows the behind the scenes. And I was telling you after we watched this episode today from the last night was they're not showing a lot of behind the scenes stuff. We're not seeing the coaches pull players aside very much. Like every other Hard Knocks, 90% of it isn't on field work. Like it's there, but it's the coaches in meeting rooms directing their players. It's coaches talking about players and if they're going to make it or not, or what we need to do.
Yeah, the first sign we saw of that was actually, I guess the Corey Coleman deal when he's like, if you want to trade me, like it was like really quick.
Hugh Jackson failed miserably on that one.
And then also this past week where, John Dorsey came in there to talk to Hugh Jackson, he's like, so here's what we're thinking for offense, defense, and special teams. Just so you know, this is what we're all looking at. But he didn't really show the coaches before that talking about, all right, let's talk about so-and-so. Let's talk about so-and-so.
Every other year you see the board where they have the players' names and they move them around like depth chart and, who's going to do what, or we can move this guy here. You haven't seen any of that. Literally, we have just seen, 5 players they're focusing on and... boring football stuff, I guess you could say. We're not seeing any of that behind the scenes.
Maybe the Browns don't have a big board. They just have like a group text where they're all texting each other.
Maybe the Browns don't even address it. Maybe the Browns don't even know. But that was great when Hugh walked up to 44 and was like, you praying? He's like, no, coach, you're stretching. He's like, you should be. And then he walks off like, ooh.
You might want to pray because, like Orchard said, he said, I'm allergic to sacks or something. So
yeah. But that's my problem with this Hard Knocks is, it's fun to watch, the rookie stuff, which they show all the time. But, even then, we're not even seeing the injury side of it, right? So, God, a guy pulls his Achilles tendon in any other episode, and they're in there, when the guy gets told that his season's over, and you see him break down because he's worked, for basically since February when the season ended to work his butt off to get back in there and play football again, and he gets told he's got to shut it down for a year and stuff like that. We haven't seen any of that dramatic stuff anywhere in this. Has there been anything dramatic anywhere in this Hard Knocks? None. I don't get it. I don't understand what we're doing.
You can't force the dramatics. The Browns have had a pretty okay training camp.
They try to force the Todd Haley Williams thing, They try to force that battle against each other. But even that, I feel like Greg Williams would kill Todd Haley, so Todd Haley's even kind of afraid of Greg Williams. So interesting story about Greg Williams, by the way, the defense coordinator for the Browns. I was listening to this guy yesterday that covered the Saints after Bountygate. He got on the Saints deal and everything. And then Greg Williams after the suspension. For those of you that don't know, Greg Williams is the one that turned in everybody on they put pressure, the NFL put pressure on him, and he gave everybody up for Bountygate. And he blamed everybody but himself for it, which... If you watch Hard Knocks, it's not hard-fetched to think that Greg Williams is the asshole that bounty-gated everybody, right? So the guy was telling me about when the Saints were playing the Rams against Greg Williams, and he walked in at halftime and they were up 33 to 10 or something, and he said that. Who's the head coach of the Saints? I just forgot his name. Sean Payton walks into the locker room and goes, if you guys don't put 50 up on these guys and keep them at 3, you're all getting cut. And that includes you, 9. Looked right at Drew Brees and told him. They didn't get 50, but they got close. It was 47 to 10 or 17 or something like that. That's how much hatred there is in this league right now for Greg Williams. So it's kind of, so they try to pit that angle up a little bit.
So,
but the Hugh Jackson, he's going to be unemployed after this year.
Don't want to give anything away because I don't know how they're going to incorporate this in the show. But because Denzel Ward did get hurt last week tackling Zach Ertz.
This came out yesterday, right?
And then Greg Williams came out and said, he got hurt because of stupid tackling, which I feel like it wasn't a stupid tackle. That's just kind of the box that these defensive players are in.
He said, not that it was a stupid tackle. Greg Williams says, maybe now he'll listen to me and tackle my way.
Right.
It wasn't about a stupid tackle.
So Hugh Jackson apparently came out and said, Greg does not get to do just what he wants to do. We will work through all this. We do not need to do all that stuff in the media. So hopefully we get to see a little bit of Hugh Jackson and Greg Williams go at each other this week. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to put on the show, but next Tuesday I think we could see some stuff.
I want to see that thing, but they're not showing any of that though. That's kind of my point. At the beginning they showed him around the QB thing, and quite frankly they made Todd Haley look like an asshole, which he is, but they made him look really bad in that editing process, because that happens every day in an NFL coaches meeting.
Well, I feel like the story that came out, because remember you broke the story down for me where a defender hit Tyrod Taylor, and Todd Haley said, good defenses do not touch quarterbacks in practice.
It was Myles Garrett hit him. Yeah.
And Greg Williams came out and said, well, you got to block him. And, you know, you saw it on Twitter, like, oh, man, this is going to be a big story. But I don't feel like the mics, because you could hear when they showed it, you could hear Haley yelling, good defenses do not hit their quarterbacks.
They had to put
and
the
you
words
heard,
on the
like,
bottom.
Greg Williams barely say, well, why'd you cover him? You know, you got to block him.
No, I think the opposite. Haley wasn't yelling that much because they had to put the words at the bottom so you could hear him. Greg Williams, you could hear, well, then you got to block him, because it was Myles Garrett that kept beating his freaking left tackle,
right?
You know, and he wasn't hitting him; he was putting his hands on him, you know. So, but like, I don't know. Like, here's the bad thing for the Browns, and this is where I actually feel sorry for the Browns, because I know you're on the 16-year-old bandwagon facetiously, but I know you're on it. And I hear people, you know, talking about the Browns, about how they're going to win 7 or 8 games. And I just think Hard Knocks, because I remember when the Cowboys did Hard Knocks, everybody was like, and that year they weren't very good. And it's like every year, like when you're on Hard Knocks, your expectation level, and when you've won 1 game or 3 games in the last 54 or whatever that stat was, like you don't want expectation levels to be high, right? And I feel like the Browns are coming into the season where people are expecting them, you know, not to like go 16-0, but I've heard people say they're going to win 7, 8, 9 games. And it's like, holy cow, those are expectations for a team that went winless last year and won 1 game the year before.
But yeah, I feel like that's just like the Hard Knocks thing. Because remember last year Tampa Bay was on it, and the year before Tampa Bay was like really coming on.
Yeah.
At the end of the season, it's like, oh man, you know, Tampa Bay, they're looking pretty good here. And then last year, it was just terrible for them. Like, they did not do jack squat last year.
Well, I mean, it's because you're in this bubble where, you know, you see the coaches work and you see all that stuff. But it does show you that side where, you know how, like, you can see how coaches can come out, like the old Rex Ryan thing where, you know, we're going to the Super Bowl every year. Like, you can see where coaches actually feel that way and players feel that way because they're literally in this bubble right now of just me, this is what's going on. Oh my God, Myles Garrett is killing our offensive line right there. He's awesome. But it's your offensive line, you know? So you're praising a guy for dominating the right tackle or the left tackle for Myles Garrett. But what you're missing is your left tackle is getting his butt kicked by Myles Garrett.
And also, another thing that I really liked about this episode is we saw Michael Kendrick, who was with the Eagles last year. They kind of broke down. They're like, hey, you know, Greg Williams said, was it Greg Williams?
Yes.
He said, hey, let us know, you know, about the Eagles. And he was like, well, you know, Nick Foles, he does all these raindrop things. So if you're quarterback, you know, you got to know it's going to be a raindrop ball. He likes to throw it up high in the air. And he's pretty much like, you know, this guy on the line, he's a bitch. Just hit him a few times.
Yeah, he did an internal scouting report because he was there.
Yeah, he's like, oh, this guy, he ain't shit. You know, he's like, Zach Ertz, best receiver on the team.
Yeah, he goes, notice that, my favorite line is, notice how I said receiver, because when it comes to blocking, guy is shit.
Yeah, I was just like, wow, like, I love this. Like, I know the Eagles are going to be watching this, like, oh, fuck that guy, you know? Like,
I know, right?
Send him a battering.
Well, they're not going to feel too bad today with the news coming out about Kendrick's today, so.
Yeah, so news today, Kendrick involved in some insider trading 4 years ago, actually made like $1.4 million, which is a pretty solid investment, I guess, you know, return on the investment.
He's going to be paying it all back.
Apparently did not go to the Carl Nassib School of
10% returns.
Investology. If he did, he would know he could be getting his 10% return back real quick and not do it the insider trading way. Kendrick did come out with a public statement on Twitter saying, I would like to apologize. 4 years ago, I participated in insider trading, and I deeply regret it. I invested money with a former friend of mine who I thought I could trust and who I greatly admire. His background as a Harvard graduate, an employee of Goldman Sachs, gave me false sense of confidence. Sachs? Is it Sachs? Okay. Yeah. Gave me a false sense of confidence. To this point, I had worked my tail off since I was 5 years old to become a football player. I was drawn in by a lure of being more than just a football player. While I didn't fully understand all the details of the illegal trades, I knew it was wrong, and I wholeheartedly regret my actions. He said, since the beginning of the investigation, I have been fully cooperative with the authorities and will continue to do so. I accept full responsibilities for my actions, although I did not take any of the profits for myself. I am committed to repaying all the funds gained illegally and accept the consequences of my actions. He goes on to apologize more to the Eagles and Browns teammates and also to the NFL. So if you're Goodell, I mean, how do you play this one out? Like, what's the suspension here?
Well, I think you have to. Well, my favorite headline was something like when it came out today. It was something like NFL players have graduated from petty crimes to white collar crimes. You know, like ouch.
Respect it.
No more women beating, but now we're doing white collar crimes. Congratulations, NFL. But well, that's going to be interesting to see because. I mean, you do jail time for insider fraud. I mean, you have to pay everything back and all that stuff. So I guess it depends how much he's telling them and everything, if there's a plea deal or whatever. But yeah, you have to pay everything back plus fines. Like, they don't mess around with that stuff. And it was just kind of shocking to see exactly, like, you know. Yeah, I don't know how you handle that as the NFL. Like, that's uncharted territory.
That's another good reason to watch episode 5 of Hard Knocks, because you're going to see all the inside stuff with that. I mean, obviously, you know, Dorsey is going to talk about this with Hugh Jackson, I would assume. Like, all right, what do we do now, you know, with this guy? What we got going on here? So it'll be interesting to hear those conversations as well. But that's a weird one.
I mean, that's no... Okay, what I'm about to say is going to sound horrible, I'm sure. But... it's white collar crime, and I know it's bad. He's going to get a huge punishment, but is it as bad as, like, perception-wise, as, like, beating your wife or DUI or drug abuse or anything like that? Like, in the grand scheme of things, is, you know, insider trading viewed as badly as that? I guess is what I'm trying to say, because I don't think it is.
And with that, like, I don't know if that's just, like, us coming out. Like, I would never hit a woman or anything like that, but I could probably, you know, stand to, like, put some money out somewhere and try to get some more.
It happens every day of the year, first of all, you know, and second of all, there was a movie where the motto was greed is good and focused on it, and it wasn't shunned at all in the movie. Like, everybody was like, oh, that sucks, you got caught, but we're going to go on with our insider trading, right? Like, you know, I'm just saying, like, in the things of, you know, annals, but, you know, for the NFL, you know, for an African American player to get busted for something like a white collar crime, you know, I'm not sure it's going to be viewed badly. Does that make sense? Like, I'm trying to watch my words. I don't sound absolutely horrible, but I don't think it's going to be judged that badly is what I'm getting at. Like, if he's going to do jail time or whatever on that side of it, and he's going to have to repay it on that side. But, I mean, it's theft. There's no doubt about it. You break it down, it's theft at the end of the day. But I just don't know how it's going to be viewed by the fan base and everything. Like,
it all depends on how much he knew, I guess.
How much of the fan base is going to be like, oh, I understand what he did.
Yeah. Like, I kind of come from that. Oh, yeah, I kind of understand that. Like, I'm not a big fan of, like, you know, women beating or anything like that. Like, that's totally abominable to me. Like, I hate that stuff. But I could kind of see, you know, where Kendrick's coming from. Like, yeah, you know, try to make a little money. I mean, he was young.
I read a thing, just because I read stupid stuff all the time, where, like, a prosecutor, like, for a federal government prosecutor was saying that one of the hardest crimes to prove are these financial crimes because people don't understand it. But what they found was, in order to get people to understand it, they have to show them that all it is simple theft. It's no different than walking into a Circle K and taking a, you know, whatever, 6-pack of beer and walking out with it. And when you break it down to it, it just sounds sophisticated and whatnot. So I guess that's just my point is, you know, how many NFL fans are going to be, you know, because it's an African-American player. If it was a white guy, it'd be different, I'm sure. But an African-American player, well-respected player, and, you know, that went that route. So I'm curious on seeing how this is going to play out, because I wouldn't be surprised if it's just swept under the rug and nobody talks about it. That's what I guess I'm getting at.
Yeah, I can totally be swept under the rug. Obviously, I mean, we kind of heard it come out today, and it's so far just kind of been like the mini thing on the blurb. Obviously, I mean, Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter shared the public statement, but it's not like one of those things they're just hearing about, oh, wait for more details. It's like, all right, cool, let's get Terry Rogers doing this thing.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, other stuff would be...
I mean, if he got arrested for drunk driving or anything like that, it'd be plastered all over the place, you know? Like, it would be what everybody's talking about and everything. And I feel kind of the same way. It's kind of like, well, you know? Wish him luck, you know? So, it's kind of weird, so that's NFL talk. Games start next Thursday, a week from tomorrow. Real game, the first real game. We're going to do we're planning on doing our NFL preview that following Saturday after the first game.
Yes, that's right. Going to
And
NFL
hopefully
preview.
have a guest with us, we're hoping.
Well, he's booked the flight, so he's
Okay,
here.
he's here.
He's
Perfect.
here. Adam Michaels, the one of the original OGs from the main event, will be joining us, making a 3-man show here. So we'll see if he gets any talk in. He'll probably just want to talk about the Bears. I've been told Sunday night, I guess the Bears are playing the Packers, and he said, make sure we got to find a bar that Sunday night so we watch Bears and Packers. I was like, and I my initial thought was, oh, that's the Sunday night game to kick off the season? Oh, what the fuck, NBC? Like,
Well, because the Cardinals play the Redskins here in Phoenix, so I was like, we got the Cardinals-Redskins game, so we're talking about the tickets, and if we got one for him to go or whatever. And then I was like, so the only other game I'm going to watch that day is Sunday Night Football. And I was like, who is it? And you said Bears, Packers. And I was like, really? Like, maybe I'm not going to watch that game. Like, oh, that's awful.
yeah, it doesn't sound like a good game at all, but I don't know. It'll be on.
It's the first game of the year, so you got to watch it, right?
Yeah, you gotta
turn
get all your NFL out. At what point during the first week of the season do you get tired of NFL?
If the Cardinals didn't have a home game and we weren't going to go tailgate and do all that, I would watch the 10 a.m. games. I would watch the afternoon games, obviously the Cardinal game, and then I would watch Sunday Night Football. So that's all I would watch, though. I wouldn't go to a bar and tune into everything.
I was going to say we'd probably go to a bar, so I guess not.
Well, at some point we would, but I wouldn't sit in a bar all day. I'd be like, oh, let's go watch the 1 o'clock games, the afternoon games, and let's go to a bar and watch those. But I'm not going to go to a bar at 8 o'clock in the morning and then hang out until Sunday Night Football's done, type of a thing. That's first weekend, and I'm going to do that this weekend with college football. It's going to be on my TV wherever I am, But then next weekend, college football is going to be a lot less, and then then the next weekend of NFL will be even less than that, and that's just the way I go. And then I start looking for games, oh, this game's interesting, I'll watch this, or if there's somebody I want to watch play, I'll watch it,
That second Monday night game, that's where it really just oh man, do I really want to, I think at halftime of the first Monday night game, can I just go to sleep right now? Do I have to watch the second Monday night football game too? But you kind of feel obligated.
Are they doing 2 again this year?
Yeah, there's going to be somebody on your fantasy team who...
I always miss the first one, though, because it always starts at 4 p.m. our time or something ridiculous, doesn't it? So, yeah. But...
I remember, was it 2-3 years ago when the Cardinals opened up on Monday Night Football? They had the second Monday Night Football game against the Chargers.
They were on the road then?
No, it was against the Chargers at home.
No.
I went, it was 4 years ago.
Oh, yeah. I didn't go to that one.
It was a few years back, so...
I hate Monday Night Football, and when it's a home game, for those of you that don't know, it's such a pain in the ass to get all your stuff done during the day, like work and kids and all that, get in your car, fight traffic for 2 hours to get there, sit down in your seat, watch the game, turn around and drive home at 10 o'clock at night, fight traffic the whole way home, and then get up the next morning and go do stuff again. I can't stand it.
It's terrible.
Anyway, that's my regress. So, but speaking of college football, I brought up to you yesterday, I was like, man, this Urban Meyer thing's really getting swept under the rug, and we haven't heard anything about it since the suspension and everything. Boy, was that a wrong comment to make after yesterday, because apparently today, well, first of all, how do you feel about... I know Feinbaum yesterday when we were at the gym really ripped Urban Meyer for this, but how do you feel about Ohio State confirming the only thing they've confirmed, by the way, in this whole report, that Tom Herman was the coach that was with Smith at the strip club? How do you feel about this?
And some other high school coaches.
Yeah, but it's the only thing Ohio State has confirmed in this whole deal. They've hidden from everything, and then all of a sudden they're like, Tom Herman did it. Tom Herman was there.
Hey, misery loves company, so they're just trying to take another man down. I haven't really heard, but that's all I've heard. I haven't heard, University of Texas officials come out and say anything oh, yeah, we'll look into Tom Herman going to a strip club in 2016 or 2015, whenever it was, with Zach Smith. Let a guy go to a titty bar.
The issue isn't the strip club, right? That's the point, right? I guess this is the point, and the Feinbaum ripped on him too, and I feel the same as Feinbaum does, is nobody cares that Tom Herman was the other coach in the strip club, right? It was brought up in the 23-page report and everything. Nobody cares who the other coach was, but it's literally Ohio State's going, oh, wait, go talk to Tom Herman down in Texas because he was involved. So leave us alone up here.
Right.
Because distract yourself by going and bothering Tom Herman down there and thing. And that's what's bullshit, excuse my language, about this, is it's just a distraction from Ohio State. Because they haven't confirmed anything else. And all of a sudden they're like, we confirmed Tom Herman was the other coach.
But we kind of
y'all run down there.
We heard this like last week though. Like,
well, all the Buckeye fans were throwing Tom Herman under the bus, saying he was the coach there.
It's like, here are the other assistants. Oh, Tom Herman. Yeah, okay, cool. Like, whatever. Did he hit his wife? No. All right. Well, what's the story? He was at a strip club with Zach Smith. Cool. But like I said, it's the whole thing like misery loves company, you know? Like, first week of the season, if, you know, both our teams lose, you're like, oh, man, Cowboys got blown out. I'm like, yeah, so your team.
But here's the issue, right? So they come out and they confirm Tom Herman's the coach that was at the strip club with Smith where all this illegal stuff happened, right? They confirmed it on the same day. This is where it gets awesome. Where a series of text messages, emails, and handwritten notes reveal Meyer's reaction to the police investigating a domestic assault issue with Smith in October 2015. So they release stuff that's damning to Urban Meyer again and how they kept him employed when he's not a good guy and is lying out of his teeth. They released that stuff and then went, go talk to Tom Herman in Texas. Everybody, look over here. Look at this shiny object. Come on, like, they honestly think we're this stupid? Maybe they do. Meyer texted his agent, Trace Armstrong. Is that the Trace Armstrong, by the way?
The Trace Armstrong? I don't know.
That's football player? Hours before speaking to reporters on July 24th in Chicago at Big Ten Media Day, and said Smith has been fired for, quote, cumulative stuff. I will not tell the media. Oh my God, people. And then they go talk to Tom Herman in Texas. Go. Everybody, fly to Texas.
He's the guy you want to go talk to now. He'll tell you more.
It's like, oh my God. Like, so anyway, but isn't that funny? How I just got done commenting that, man, this was kind of swept under the rug and like kind of went away. And you're like, yeah, there's nothing new. And I was like, stuff will come out. And then today's the day. Here's my favorite part of it is... Zach Smith, we've had this conversation before where it's like, just shut up. Like, stop talking. Stop twittering. Stop talking. You're not helping. If you want to help Urban Meyer, shut up. Case in point. So, he breaks his silence, today, Wednesday. He breaks his silence, and he says, saying in a number of posts that he believes that people in the media, including ESPN, have hurt his children, as well as Ohio State football players, staff, and fans. First of all, you beating your wife hurts your children, but that's a whole nother story. Then he literally says, silence equals over. I tried. He continues, I can't watch, and then they put clowns in the media, so he says something else, but continue to run their mouths, not only without knowledge, but with complete disregard for my children. Their mother had plenty of disregard for them in this. Time for you all to face the damage you're causing. Smith is blaming the media and his ex-wife for his kids that are going to turn out like complete a-hole. They need therapy. And he's blaming everybody but himself for that on Twitter. How does that help? It gets better, folks.
He's not getting another coaching job anywhere.
Well, he wasn't going to anyway. He's not going to do anything. Walmart's not even going to hire him at this point. Like, oh my God, if I walked into a Walmart and saw Zach Smith there, I would turn around and walk out because I would be afraid the guy's going to like do something off the rails, man.
Hey, you need a buggy?
So he goes on to say that... Buggy. Is he British now?
I was looking at buggy, you know?
He went on to say...
So he always called him in Texas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the shopping cart. Hey, you need a buggy? Hey, get a buggy.
I thought it was a British thing. He says in subsequent posts, Wednesday, so today, that he, quote, never beat my wife, and that Ohio State, quote, botched their investigation, and that he believed the university's forced Buckeyes coach, Urban Meyer, into making an apology, being given a 3-game suspension. Oh my God, but then he numbers them too. So like, are they in numerical order? So like, one is, my kids are suffering because of all of this, and he puts parentheses, most important. So he feels the second thing he should talk about is he never beat his wife. So the third most important thing he wants you to know, folks, is OSU botched the investigation, and worse off, the punishment. Hey, Urban Meyer's lucky to have a job today because OSU had circled the wagons and covered for him. And this guy is now saying they botched it. If they didn't botch it, he would be fired today, right?
Right.
So, 4, they forced Coach Meyer into a state, and then he tags him too, which is even funnier to me, right?
Tags him on Twitter.
Yeah, so they forced Coach Meyer into a statement. I hope at least because he knows what's real and would never have apologized. 5, President Drake is either the cause of the joke, of an investigation, or punishment, or he allowed it. Drake made the punishment. The board actually said they didn't think they should punish him at all. And Drake was the one like, no, this is unacceptable. We need to punish the guy. So, yeah, he's responsible for it as the president of the university, and he has to look out for the president, for the university, But it's like, just, Zach Smith, you're not helping. None of that helped anything. Am I wrong?
He needs a gag order, big time, on everything. Like, whether it's now he's not. What does he care? He has nothing to lose anymore, right?
My favorite thing is Twitter is still at Coach Zach Smith. Maybe you should change that. So he goes, let's talk facts, since so many people, parentheses, mainly opposing fan bases fans, parentheses,
Michigan.
Want to talk. It's not just Michigan. He's getting, Ohio State's getting bashed by everybody. They're getting bashed by Pac-12 members. I'm bashing them, and I'm not, I have no dog in that fight.
But I feel like anytime I do talk about it on Twitter, somebody just accuses me of being a Michigan fan.
I know, yeah.
It's like, I'm not a Michigan fan, anybody can see.
That's if you're reading anything from the Ohio State fans on this deal, they're all just... I had a really nice conversation with an Ohio State fan where he started off, telling me I'm wrong, I'm stupid. But by the end of it, he was like, look, Coach Meyer messed up, but he's getting this. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's admitting it now? I was like, who is this guy?
He's joined the dark side. But speaking of colleges, obviously, ASU back in session, getting ready for ASU football this week. Got University of Texas San Antonio, Forkham. Anyways, on that note, U.S. saw a record number of cases of sexually transmitted diseases in 2017. 4 straight years, sharp increases in gonorrhea, syphilis, and chlamydia, according to preliminary data from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention.
Does that break it down to age groups? Because I bet you majority of them are old people. I will bet you that 60 plus is majority of those people. Does it break it down by age? Let's see. Let's do a Twitter poll.
It does not break it down by age.
Everybody vote on the Twitter poll. Is it young people or old people?
But didn't ASU get voted the highest STD rate a few years back?
I don't know that they were that, but that was the jokes in TED too.
So I had to assume it was real.
that happens everywhere. First of all, every college campus.
Hey, I'm all about go ASU. Fucking keep having your unprotected sex.
Second of all, I read a study.
Send them girls my way.
I read a study several months ago that old people 60 plus had the highest STD rate of everybody in the country and everything. So hope you're not eating breakfast, folks.
Because they just don't care. They're whatever. I got herpes.
Well, they're not gonna get pregnant or anything,
right?
So,
they're already past it. Screw it.
So. So that's your story for the day, huh? That's what you're impressed with?
Yeah, that's what I'm impressed with. It took us till almost September to figure out what the 2017 STD rates were, and they've increased for the 4th straight year. So good on you. So
go back to NBA real quick. The NBA and U.S. Hoops aligned, so the one and done's going to go away for college players.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so we get a bunch of unready high school players to jump. They need to do baseball, right? Where, if you go to college, you have to stay for 2 years. But if you don't go to college and get drafted, then you can go play.
Yeah.
That's what
or even if you do get drafted, we're no.
Yeah.
I feel because that's, I had a buddy actually.
You can get drafted and go back.
Yeah, right? He got drafted by the Mariners, I believe, right out of high school. And then he got drafted by the White Sox, but he had a chance to go play Division I baseball, which is what he wanted to do because he wanted to try to make it to the College World Series. So he went and did that too, and then he got hurt. And
Well, yeah, I mean,
drafted.
because I told you about, I worked with his dad, Pazos, who's a relief pitcher for the Mariners, who were just in town and almost swept the Diamondbacks. But, yeah, he got drafted out of college, out of high school, and they didn't make a deal, so then he ended up going to some community college here for a year, and then he went to San Diego State, and they got drafted by the Yankees. So that's what they need to do with the NBA is, so get drafted, and if you don't like your spot, or if you don't get drafted, then you go back to school, but then make them stay for 2 years, or 3 years or whatever before they can come out again. That's what they need to do. I don't understand why it's so hard. Baseball is the perfect model for that.
Right.
So, but it's whatever, politics in the NBA. Because last thing we need is an 18-year-old kid that isn't ready to play. And then he just sits on the bench and he's out of the league or whatever. It's just, we don't need that. Let's get polished guys.
Because then that guy's gonna be like what's the word I'm looking for? So after he gets drafted, and he'll be just another one of those guys with money issues because he spent it all on his rookie deal, didn't play at all, and he'll be on the corner out here saying, "I live in a van, anything helps," like the guy down the street.
You've got to love the and I didn't know this when I was growing up. I think if I would have known this, I probably would have concentrated on basketball more. Because, when you're growing up, I was like, the odds of making the NBA are like, even Division I college, like slim, right? Like very few people do it with the amount of people like basketball. But I didn't know there was this whole European league, like Israel, and that pay a lot of money, and I didn't know those things existed.
Dude, I'm a father of a little 2-year-old.
Oh, here we go.
Obviously, he's not, throwing balls or, shooting baskets yet, but I'm going to teach him how to shoot a good mid-range jumper and get that guaranteed money that comes with the NBA. Or golf. One of the two.
Well, it's going to change. Golf's even worse, man. There's guys that can't make the tour that, are... because they putt 1.3 times. I can't remember what it was, but I used to work with a guy that had to have a part-time job because he was trying to make the tour. And his putt average was 1.3 or something like that. And he was like, I got to be at 1.15 in order to make the tour. And I'm like, that's so minuscule. That's literally, he probably missed one putt in a round, and that's what's keeping him off getting a scorecard or getting into a tournament, is literally one putt in an 18-hole round where he messes up or misses, So
speaking of putting, the pay-per-view numbers have come out. $25 is what you'll have to pay to watch Tiger and Phil go one-on-one in match play.
The day after Thanksgiving, right?
The day after Thanksgiving.
We talked about this. Interested, not interested?
I'm interested.
Okay.
I'd be interested, if it was oh, hey, man, let's go to that. That'd be awesome. But
I told you my problem with it. And I'm not saying I wouldn't watch it if I was home and it was on TV. I would.
Yeah, if it was on NBC Sports, I'd be oh, sweet.
That's college football rivalry weekend. People play football on those days and everything. It's rival. Even if it's two teams that, Jacksonville A&T versus Jacksonville G&T,
still a rivalry game.
You're watching that because they play harder. It's a rivalry. They're beating each other up more, It's a bigger deal. And they're going up right against that. So, I don't know, man. That seems like a struggle. But $25 is pretty cheap for a pay-per-view, right?
I mean, compared to what
50 or whatever. 75.
When was the last time there was a golf pay-per-view? You usually see
no, but boxing
wrestling pay-per-views, boxing pay-per-views, which this past weekend was the 1-year anniversary of the biggest boxing pay-per-view in history with McGregor and Mayweather.
Has it been that long already?
Yeah, 1 year. I was kind of shocked when I saw it too, but everybody's like, "Oh man, remember 1 year ago this happened?" I was like, "Wow." I remember I watched it from somebody's Instagram. Didn't have to pay anything, which felt pretty good.
Yeah, I paid the $100 or whatever because. Yeah, that's a whole nother story. The sad thing about that is Connor just ran out of gas.
He did.
Which, I don't know, if I may go on a side thing here, I get getting tired, right? As a guy that's, semi out of shape and don't stay in shape like I should. I get doing something and then running out of gas or whatever. But, when you have 6 months to prepare for a fight, is there an excuse to run out of gas on, the 7th, 8th round, right? I just feel same thing with football players, right? You shouldn't be tired in the fourth quarter. You'll be tired. There's a fine line. You'll be tired, but you shouldn't be so drained that you can't perform. You should be in shape. You've had since February to train for this, and you've been training for this for that long. You shouldn't be that tired, or you can't function in the fourth quarter. Anyway, side rant.
I don't know. I'm getting pretty tired of this podcast right now. I'm out of breath.
It wore you out.
Fatigue is starting to set in. I hope fatigue didn't set in for you fans. Make sure you share this with your friends, family, all that jazz. Like us on all the proper channels: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. Do all that jazzness. Thanks for listening. God bless you. God bless the troops, and God bless America. Shut up, cat.
I know, right at the end.